Hi, today we are going to learn about the divisors or factors of a number. Divisors or factors of a number are those numbers which divide that given number completely. For example, let's see the divisors of 12. The divisors of 12 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 12. These are 6 divisors in all. Okay. Now, once more, let's see the divisors of 60. So, divisors of 60 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30 and 60. How many divisors are there in all of 60? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12. There are 12 divisors of 60 in total. Now, can we calculate divisors in this manner? For example, if I ask you how many divisors does 900 have, can you calculate this way? No, we cannot, because the divisors would be in a large number. Okay, so what method do we use to calculate the number of divisors of a given number? Okay. First and foremost, what you do is that you do the prime factorization of the given number. For example, the prime factorization of 12 would be 2 square into 3. Now, which powers of 2 will divide 12 completely? We can see that the powers of 2 which will divide 12 completely are 2 raised to 0, 2 raised to 1 and 2 square. Do you think 2 cube or 2 raised to 4 would divide 12 completely? No. 2 cube, which is 8, will not divide 12. So, we have only 3 powers of 2 which will divide 12 completely. Similarly, we have only 2 powers of 3 which will divide 12 completely. 3 raised to 0 and 3 raised to 1. Okay. So, and we know that any combination of these powers, for example, 2 raised to 1 into 3 raised to 0 will give me a divisor. Similarly, 2 square into 3 raised to 1 would also give me a divisor. Total number of such combinations possible are, these are 3 powers in all, so we'll have 3. These are 2 powers in all, so we have 2. Total number of combinations are 3 into 2 is equal to 6. And we have seen that there are 6 divisors of 12 in total. Similarly, let's see how can we calculate the number of divisors of 60. Again, if we do the prime factorization of 60, it would be 2 square into 3 into 5. Correct? Now, the powers of 2 which will divide 60 completely would be again 2 raised to 0, 2 raised to 1, 2 square, 3 raised to 0 and 3 raised to 1. And similarly 5 raised to 0 and 5 raised to 1. These are 3 powers in all, these are 2 powers in all, similarly these are 2 powers in all. So total number of divisors will have 3 into 2 into 2, that is 12 divisors in all. And we just calculated that 60 has 12 divisors in all. Okay, so now let's see how many divisors does 900 have. 900 is equal to 2 square into 3 square into 5 square. Okay. So powers of 2 would be 2 raised to 0, 2 raised to 1, 2 square. Similarly, powers of 3 would be 3 raised to 0, 3 raised to 1 and 3 square. And powers of 5 would be 5 raised to 0, 5 raised to 1, 5 square. So total number of divisors of 900 would be 3 into 3 into 3 is equal to 27 divisors in all. By now, I am sure you must have derived the formula for finding the number of divisors. For example, let's see 3600 is equal to 2 raised to 4 into 3 square into 5 square. So, what would be the number of divisors? I can see that it would be 5 into 3 into 3. This is equal to 45 divisors in all. Or, I can see that if n is equal to p1 raised to a into p2 raised to b into p3 raised to c, then the number of divisors would be a plus 1 into b plus 1 into c plus 1. given that P1, P2, P3 are prime numbers. Okay, now let's see a simple question on divisors. How many odd divisors does 3600 have? You can see that 3600 is equal to 2 raised to 4 into 3 square into 5 square. Now, we are asking only the odd divisors of 3600. Now, odd divisors of 3600 mean that it will not have any power of 2. Okay, so we'll cancel out 2 and only power of we'll only take the power of 3 and 5. So, odd divisors of 3600 are the numbers of powers of 3 square and the number of powers of 5 square that we can take. So basically 3 raised to 0, 3 raised to 1, 3 square, 5 raised to 0, 5 raised to 1, 5 square. So the total number of divisors would be 3 into 3, that is 9 odd divisors of 3600 are there. Okay, let's see the next question. How many even divisors does 3600 have? We have just calculated the odd number of divisors. So 3600 have 9 divisors, 9 odd divisors in all. And we also calculated the total number of divisors that 3600 have. We know that 3600 have 45 total number of divisors. Therefore, they have 45 divisors, out of which 9 are odd. Therefore, the number of even divisors would be 45 minus 9, or 36 even divisors in total. Can we do it some other way? Yes, we can. Let's see one more time how do we calculate the odd number of divisors of 3600. 3600, if we need to calculate the odd number of divisors, then we know that we will not take any power of 2. Now, only power of 2 that we can take for calculating the odd number of divisors would be 2 raised to 0. Okay? And the powers of 3 that we would take is 3 raised to 0, 3 raised to 1, 3 square. Powers of 5 that we can take is 5 raised to 0, 5 raised to 1, 5 square. Okay? So, total number of divisors would be 1 into 3 into 3, that is 9 divisors in all. We saw that the total number of divisors, or odd divisors of 3600 rather, were 9 in all. Now let's calculate the number of even divisors of 3600. For taking the even divisors of 3600, we would need at least one power of 2, because even numbers are numbers which have at least one power of 2 in them. So therefore, the powers of 2 that we can take would be 2 raised to 1, 2 square, and 2 raised cube, and 2 raised to 4. The powers of 3 that we can take would, of course, 3 raised to 0, 3 raised to 1, 3 square. Powers of 5 that we can take is 5 raised to 0, 5 raised to 1, 5 square. Therefore, the total number of divisors, or even divisors of 3600 would be 4 into 3 into 3, that is 36 divisors in total. We just saw that the total number of divisors, or even divisors of 3600 were 36. Now, since we have seen the method for calculating the number of divisors, now we can manipulate it to calculate whatever conditions are given of the divisors. For example, let's see a simple question. How many divisors of 3600 are divisible by 12? Now, 12 we know is equal to 2 square into 3. So, for a divisor to be divisible by 12, it has to have at least 2 square and at least 3 in it. Okay? So, out of the divisors of 3600, the powers of 2 that we can take now would be 2 square, 2 cube, and 2 raised to 4. Powers of 3 that we can take is 3 raised to 1 and 3 square. Powers of 5 we can take is 5 raised to 0, 5 raised to 1, 5 square. So total number of divisors which are divisible by 12 are 3 into 2 into 3, or 18 divisors in total. One more question. How many divisors of 3600 end in a 0? All end in a 5. Now let's see the first part. How many divisors end in a 0? For a divisor ending in 0, what would it need? It would need that it is a multiple of 10. Okay. For a divisor to be a multiple of 10, it has to have at least 1 power of 2 and at least 1 power of 5 in it. Okay, so now the powers of 2 that we can take would be 2 raised to 1, 2 square, 2 cube and 2 raised to 4. We can take any power of 3, 3 raised to 0, 3 raised to 1, 3 square, and again powers of 5 that we can take would be 5 raised to 1 and 5 square. So the number of divisors ending in a 0, all the number of divisors which are multiple of 10 are 4 into 3 into 2 is equal to 24. There are 24 divisors in all of 3600 which are ending in a 0. Okay, how many divisors would be ending in a 5? Okay, for divisors to end in a 5, it has to have at least one 5 in it, but it should not have any 2 in it, because if it has any 2 in it, it would be a multiple of 10 and it would end in a 0. Therefore, the powers of 2 that we can take would be only 2 raised to 0. Powers of 3 that we can take is 3 raised to 0, 3 raised to 1, 3 square, and powers of 5 that we can take would be 5 raised to 1 and 5 square. Therefore, number of divisors ending in a 5 would be 1 into 3 into 2, or 6 divisors in all. Let's see one more question related to divisors. How many divisors of 3600 are perfect square? So, how do we solve this question? Let's see one more thing first. Do you think 2 raised to 7 into 3 raised to 4 is a perfect square? No, it will not be a perfect square, because the powers of 2 is odd. Okay. What about 2 raised to 8 into 3 raised to 12? Yes, it would be a perfect square, because all the powers of the prime numbers are even numbers. So it would be a perfect square of 2 raised to 4 into 3 raised to 6. Therefore, if a number is to be a perfect square, all the powers of prime numbers are to be even. Now, how do we solve this question? How many divisors of 3600 are perfect square? Since all the powers of the prime factors that we need to take are to be even numbers, the powers of 2 that we can take would be 2 raised to 0, 2 square and 2 raised to 4. Similarly, powers of 3 that we can take is 3 raised to 0, 3 square. And powers of 5 that we can take is 5 raised to 0, 5 square. Therefore, the number of divisors that are perfect square are 3 into 2 into 2, or 12 divisors in all.